jump into the main event here for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. We have the champion, the G1 Climax winner, Zack Sabre Jr., taking on the Roughneck Shota Umino. And I just want to point out before you guys jump in, my whole theory of Umino's render, all these new graphics that are coming out for Wrestle Kingdom, they still have this man with the long blonde hair. All the other new young guys have new renders. Umino is the only one that has like a 2-year-old render. Like,
bro, maybe because follow me here. Maybe the theory about him turning heel is going to transpire here, and they just know that they don't want to spend money on another babyface Hantai render if they're going to be spending money
on the heel render.
Yeah, on the heel render that they've got, cooking up. This was for me, I've never gotten, since we've been doing this show, I've never gotten a Tokyo Dome main event wrong, at least for Wrestle Kingdom, for any of the nights at this point. And I've always prided myself on being able to keep that momentum going. And I did feel for a while there that this was one of the more difficult predictions for me to make. And then when I watched that preview tag match at Road to Tokyo Dome, which was phenomenal, by the way. Again, if I can't recommend it high enough, if you guys haven't seen that match, you need to fucking see that match. But it told me everything I needed to know about what was happening with this story and clued me into where we go from here. And the methodology I've always tried to use to determine at this juncture who wins the match, I usually try to keep it pretty simple. This is the end of their season. We're jumping into the new season, and it's not that hard to kind of traject where the money is, what the chase is going to be, and what makes the most sense from that standpoint. And I think both guys have great kayfabe stories behind them, because you look at Zack Sabre Jr. and sure, he has achieved so much this year, probably more than any foreigner in quite a long time, maybe, in the modern era, in terms of winning the Tokyo Sports Award, winning the G1, turning that into, carrying the strap for a while, and then coming here into the Dome, plus, everything else that he achieved through the calendar year. And yet at the same time, he still is not cemented as a big four guy in the company, not just yet. And if he were to win here, like, there hasn't been a foreigner that has won in the Tokyo Dome since Brock Lesnar. And so for him to do that, that would be like the ultimate crowning achievement. That would solidify, like, he's the big boss here. Like, he is the Westerner that is, like, just solidified, classified, boom, that's him. And it would prove a point as to what he wants to do, which is, like, be the man in this company. On the other side of things, you have Shota Umino, who we've talked about it so many times, like, he's had his detractors, he's had ups and downs within the company, he's been inconsistent, he's had successes, and then, he's been up and down. And there's people that don't think that he should be in this spot at this current time, that there is, like, nepotism involved, that there is, like, favoritism that kind of have led him here. And we've seen the flashes of greatness. And I think for him to go out there and put in an all-time classic performance, get the crowd behind him, and to win clean in the Tokyo Dome would be like that first true crowning step to, like, I've arrived, I'm the best of my generation, like, I'm the guy moving forward that's kind of like leading the path. He said he wanted to be the new ace, that this would be the first step to, like, making him that. And I think the struggle between the two of them is going to be monumental. I loved the aspect that Zack was better than him in every aspect during their tag match preview, except for when it came to endurance and fighting spirit. And I feel like that's what is going to be the story here in the tale. That being said, I just can't see Zack Sabre Jr. winning this match. I wanted to believe that he could win the match, but I just can't see this company. Now, that doesn't mean that they're done with him if he loses, or by any means. But if they go with him, he is big boss. Like he is Okada type level guy, right? For this time, for this period. And I don't see the story, because the story afterwards would be he is it. And now we need to find a new up and coming challenger. And the story is kind of about him. And we don't have anyone waiting in the wings unless they do something really compelling with that Rambo, right? It's so much easier to tell that story when you crown a new young guy that the crowd is going to be gung-ho for. If you were going to do it, now's the time to do it. There's more money in it. And the stories that you can tell are all completely fresh and brand new. And he's going to have struggles to prove himself as a new young babyface champion. And there's an endless list of bad guy and good guy contenders that he can go, face off with during this inaugural title run. It just, to me, that's where the money is. That's where the chase is. It just makes more sense. And it tracks with how this company books. I don't see them giving a Westerner this extra nth degree of deference. I just don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the last time a non-native born person won in a main event in the Tokyo Dome was in 2006. I mean, you said it was Brock Lesnar. I mean, and even before that, it's Brock Lesnar and Bob Sapp. Like, that's it. Hogan. Yeah, for sure. That was way. So, I think I agree. I think Umino's winning this match. I also think, back to our conversation about Tanahashi, they've got plenty of space to take some risks this year in 2025, because on every major show, you're going to have some sort of major Tanahashi event, and people are going to show up for it. The tickets are going to sell. So I think that means let's kick it off right. Let's kick it off on January 4th and give it to Umino. I mean, like, everyone says it, that New Japan's got to elevate some guys, right? That every wrestling company has to elevate some guys, but until they do it, and then they do it, and people are like, "Oh, not like that," and you're like, "Well, then fucking how?" Like, so, and I'm not the biggest Shota Umino fan, but he looked great in that tag match. He looked great in every interaction he had with Zack Sabre Jr. across World Tag League. He looks to be in really good shape. I mean, he finally looks the part, right?
Except hair.
Except the hair.
But why is he looking? Why would he be looking so good right now?
But like,
and Zach's not necessarily looking.
Wow, like Zach looks pretty good. Zach looks pretty good. Zach's in pretty good shape. But my question is, and what I keep coming back to is, if you're gonna have Zack Sabre Jr. win in the Dome, wouldn't you have just done it off of the G1 win, and have him challenge at the Dome and win? If that was the booking, if you're going to have Zack Sabre Jr. win the main event, wouldn't you just have, like, why wouldn't you just have him do the G1 challenge at the Dome? Why give him this little run that started in the fall and really established him as a dude? And it has worked. But if you were just going to have him win, why wouldn't you just put him against Naito in the Dome? Because that's a hell of a drawing match.
Yeah, also, I think another thing to think about too is the next night, or Wrestle Dynasty, like, are you going to main event the Tokyo Dome with Zack and Ricochet, or are you going to have at least one Japanese guy in there? You're going to do Umino Claudio,
yeah,
for the main event.
And I think we all know that the reason that Zack won early was because they were going to do Okada and him. I called it. Everyone knows I was right about that shit. But ultimately, Okada put the nix on it. He didn't want to do the JOB. He didn't want to look up at the lights in the Dome, and so that's why that shit didn't happen.
Does he even know what the lights look like anymore? Bitch. Umino's not the guy that I would have put in this position, but he's also the only guy that doesn't. He's got nothing else going on, so they may as well just throw him in the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think choosing Umino was fine. I think how we got here, the booking was the real problem with this
You
whole
should have
match.
just won the fucking
Should have
G1.
won the G1.
Yeah.
Like,
or at least finaled.
Right. Yeah.
because you could have done this whole thing, and I'm talking now. Like, he could have done this whole thing could have happened. The same match could have happened, but you give Umino a good run in the G1, have him win the damn thing, maybe, right? Zack beats Naito in the blocks, and then they actually could do a title change at Ryogoku, the same title change that they did. They could have done that based on Zack beating Naito in the G1, and then the match turns into Umino versus Zack, and then Umino's actually got some momentum behind him, and it's not just like some dude that just showed up after a match, right? I mean, I know he beat Zack in the G1 or whatever, like, but they reversed it all, and it didn't make any sense. And part of me thinks something weird was going on around the G1, and I think we all talked about it and alluded about it, that, you know, maybe Umino didn't even have a good G1.
Yeah.
He
It's
didn't.
very mid.
He wasn't even, and not even. I'm not even talking about like match performance. I'm talking about like wins, like just the pure booking. He was booked like a geek, and he was a non-factor throughout the whole tournament. And now all of a sudden he's main eventing the Tokyo Dome, and like, I know that I put the G1 up on a pedestal, so like that whole thing made me like irrationally upset. But like, also now looking back at it, we could have gotten to this exact spot in a way that made more sense and got people to believe that Umino is an actual threat. Because I think there's a lot of people in our world, in our universe, that think this is a foregone conclusion that Zack Sabre Jr. is winning this main event. And I think they've all got their heads in the sand, because they don't see that this is the avenue that they're using to get Shota Umino into that spot. And I will be very surprised if that's not the case. And a little disappointed, I guess. I mean, I think I would prefer the Zack reign continue, because I do think Zack is really at the top of his game. But that doesn't mean that he's not still going to be around the title, or around, you know, major spots for the company. But I think Umino's getting the win here.
Well, before we kick it to Jeremy, let me just ask you guys one last thing and just think about it. Say Umino loses, right? Now Zack is his white whale. Do you believe that New Japan is going to treat Zack Sabre like Jumbo Tsuruta, the way they should have been booking Okada, as the guy that every single young Japanese wrestler should be chasing? And is that the trajectory story that we're going to set up here, that like the generational guy for Umino to chase is Zack? I just can't see that. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, Zack loses. He's already at this level. He's never very far removed from getting back to that title chase after the loss.
Yeah. Zack remains a threat forever.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. From now on, Zack's a threat to win the world championship.
Yeah, I do think there is a Gato Books Tragedies card you can pull out of your deck if you want Zack to win, and you have Umino come so close in the main event, but he loses, and then you use 2025 for him to rebuild and actually earn the title match. You actually book him well. Maybe he wins New Japan Cup. Maybe he actually wins the G1. Like, you actually book him like you give a damn about him, and then he earns that spot back to face Zack again and beat him. But that might end up being a long shot, but because I think there are so many factors that you guys have brought up where it does make a ton of sense for him to win. Like, yeah, if Chris, you nailed the nail on the head there. Yeah, if Zack was going to win the Dome, like, why not just do Zack Naito in the Tokyo Dome and have Zack win there? And I think your booking of how they should have done it makes perfect sense. And I mean, Zack already did beat Naito in block play, so you easily could have done all that and had Umino win the G1. But I get it. They wanted to give Zack G1. That's a great accomplishment for him. Just kind of ruined the way we got to this match. And yeah, there are so many factors of all, it's a Japanese star. Zack could have already won. Like, there's so many things pointing in the direction that Umino should win. You need to get a young guy going. And so, yeah, I think for a lot of it, initially, I was thinking Zack's going to win. But, the more you lay the facts out, the more you think about it, I think, Shota Umino is going to get the win here, become IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, go on the next night to face Claudio, who's been super protected in AEW. So that's like a credible threat for him there that advances the storyline between him and John Moxley that you can do later on in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that and plus
Wrestle
two,
Kingdom. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
plus two, they've announced Zack versus Hechicero for Battle in the Valley, and it's like, are you gonna do that match as your main event world title match for Battle in the Valley? I guess you could, or is that a rebound match for Zack, and then Umino is going to defend against somebody?
Wrestle Kingdom 19, White's down bad.
Wow. I think Umino would be one of the youngest, and I'll have to run this math before the 4th, but he would end up being one of the youngest Tokyo Dome main event winners, at least in quite a while.
Rambo and Slam Pig says first title runs don't often last super long in NJPW, so Zack coming off the belt right now isn't so surprising, and I agree with that too.
Yeah.
The
white guys are always transitional title reigns.
I looked this up not too long ago, and this is another funny like G1 IWGP stat, but like if you look at the IWGP champions that held the title within a calendar year of the previous G1, Shota Umino will be the worst performing guy.
Oh, it's not even close.
To have ever turned around and won the title within a calendar year.
It's not even close.
Like, I know we're living in an era now where, traditionally the person gets the title shot in 1-4, but even if you go back to like the 90s and the early 2000s, like nobody has ever done so poorly in the G1 and then turned around and won the title. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah.